Hi everyone, welcome back to Farrand Film. Today we are bringing you our part two of our top 10 critical darlings, the films that everyone loves and you just don't understand why. Ollie's going to kick us off with his number five.
A reminder as well from last week. Last week was all about films where I can accept that they are good, just don't do it for me. We're now firmly into films that no. If you like
Oh
these, I judge
no.
you.
Oh no.
Number five, you'll be pleased to know, is not a bomb. So it is one that has been talked about already. I'm loving the crossover with this. I feel vindicated in some of my opinions. I obviously feel a bit stronger about these films than you guys do. And it is Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Just absolute, like, I love Tarantino films. I think he does really well with, like, I do love his more silly films. Kill Bill's a lot of fun. Death Proof is a little bit too silly, but I appreciate he's just like he's just doing his love letter to like dumb B movies from the past and stuff like that. So I absolutely get that. But to avoid a bit of repetition on this, so my mate who will try and kill Gemma Hale if he ever hears her opinions on Lord of the Rings. Have you seen Once Upon a Time? I'm reading from our text. Have you seen Once Upon a Time in Hollywood? I've nearly finished the book, effing unreal film, and I just went, didn't rate. And he's shocked by this. Why? I was like, Tarantino plots are usually so interesting, so intricate. The way he brings characters together, the situations that they find themselves in, the way that the plots intertwine and stuff like that. It's usually so interesting. The acting in this film is really good. It looks very pretty. That is it. Holly mentioned it before. We're making a movie about the magic of making movies. Get in the bin firmly. I don't care about the magic of making movies. It's boring. Like, I don't need like the spiel. The closest I've got to enjoying it is The Holiday, and it's because it doesn't linger on it. Just Arthur, he's a screwly do. He was a bit about the magic of making movies, but he was relating it to like an actual love story that was going on at the time. You know, Banshees of Inisherin. That's how you do a metaphor, by the way. And just like, I feel like I get you. I feel like the film isn't about the plot though. It's highlighting a style and represents a culture. And like, I don't know. Like, I feel like Tarantino films have managed to do that and grip me and have a narrative in the past. Like, he's done a love letter in Death Race to B movies. He's done a love letter in Kill Bill to like Bruce Lee movies and kind of kung fu movies. That's about representing a style and a culture, and still, you know, I genuinely love the the Western that they're shooting in there, where it's Timothy Olyphant versus Leonardo DiCaprio, and then the little girl turns to him and is like, "That's the best acting I've ever seen," and Leo like cries but holds himself. That I love, but I found myself thinking, I'd rather just watch that Western that they've got going on there. That seems way more engaging than whatever is going on here. But yeah, he really doesn't like he absolutely, yeah, he's saying, have you watched it? It's like, yeah, it bored me. And he said, oh, you've got zero appreciation for cinema. And I just said, F all happens. Separate text for every word. Not that kind of movie, son. Then it's boring. If nothing happens in there, then it's boring. Like, he's again, Reservoir Dogs has got a really compelling story, and the fact that most of it takes place in a single warehouse, that's cinema. That's incredible. Pulp Fiction, all of these different narratives kind of blended together seamlessly. All of the characters individually are really interesting. All of the threads are really interesting in there. And it's just like, this doesn't have it. Like, Margot Robbie got massive praise for it. And I love Margot Robbie. I just had her down in like the honorable mentions for my favorite actors. But her entire job in this is just to wander around and smile at everything.
And get a feet
Like,
out.
because we want to pay homage to Sharon Tate. And I don't care. Like, and what is this? Like, I get that he's done like weird takes on history in the past. I love that in Inglorious he has Hitler being assassinated in a stupendously gratuitous way, where quote unquote the bear Jew, like played by Eli Roth, literally unloads an entire assault rifle's worth of bullets into his very, very dead corpse, and then a bunch of dynamite goes off whilst the cinema's already on fire. That's hilarious. But this didn't feel like the kind of thing that you can kind of fan service history about. It came across as a little disrespectful and then Brad Pitt's character was there and he kung fu kicked the Manson family and one of them got set on fire by a real flamethrower. It's just, why? Like, because I thought the direction that we're going to go in is that it was going to kind of do a bit more with the Manson family and we're going to get Tarantino's kind of take on that. And you just didn't get that. And that would have been a bit more interesting. And like, even to the point where the guy that they hired to play Charles Manson, he played him in Mindhunter, was exactly the same guy. And he was brilliant in that. And he was like, yeah, you're a really good Charles Manson. I hope that's not your entire career. But it's just, you've already used the key phrase. It's one of the most self-indulgent films I've ever seen. It pats itself on the back. It's like, oh, the golden days of cinema, wasn't it great? Like Bruce Lee getting beat up by anybody remotely near his size is laughable. Just no. Just no. Awful film. Awful.
Okay. My number 5, ladies and gentlemen. Everything is not awesome. The Lego movie.
I forgot that you thought this. Oh,
I really didn't like the Lego movie. I really don't like the Lego movie. For all the
Feeling hard
Lego
to
that is
take.
currently in my house, all the stuff behind me, the stuff downstairs on display, my Home Alone house, my Stranger Things upside down set, everything, I just really didn't like it. I don't like or get that Lego style of animation. In the legitimately the only Lego movie that I like is the Lego Batman movie, but that's probably because of all the sort of groundwork it does into fan service and all the stuff about Batman and all that kind of stuff. I can never get on board with the Lego games. There's just something about it that just turns me off.
Oh my God, what?
And I remember taking my brother, who was, I want to say around about 8 at the time, to go and watch this. He enjoyed it, but I just thought, what am I watching? Like, they're just throwing characters in every now and again. It doesn't really make sense. I don't really care, And then this whole bit at the end where Will Ferrell turns up and it's supposed to be like, oh, but it's just a dad playing Lego with his son. And I thought, well, I'm not bothered. Just no, I thought it was rubbish. That was naff.
Really hot take.
I love the Lego movie so
No.
much.
It's
And I
so
thought the
good.
animation was stunning.
Yeah, sorry, you don't like this animation, but you do like the animation in like Into the Spider-Verse, Mitchell's versus the Machines, stuff like that.
Yeah,
Because this animation basically walked so that that stuff could run.
great. I'm glad they're running.
Just
Nah,
wow.
nah.
Like for it to be a film that is so obviously a cynical product placement, because it is.
Yeah.
Like you can't get your head around.
Yeah.
But for the story to still be as imaginative and heartfelt as it was, and I will say I did not see that twist coming, and I thought, like, it's one of them, it's an obvious twist, but then you're there and you're like, oh, that's where they're going with this. This is clever. I love it. And just all the voice acting's great. The way they incorporate the idea, like, I love, because there are people who play with Lego and like it needs to be the set that it's in, and there's people who just want to build stuff for the sake of just Adam.
I'll enjoy it when my Lego Disney camera turns up over the weekend because that gets released tomorrow. And
No,
I'll build that
you're
before we start
banned
work.
from any Lego because
No.
let's also not just pass over the fact you said you don't get the Lego games. What is wrong with you?
I really don't. They frustrate me.
What is wrong with you? The Lego games are so good.
Nah, cannot be bothered.
There was a moment in the cinema when I was watching the Lego movie where Morgan Freeman's character dies and then he comes back with the little ghost insert over the top. I lost it because I had those ghost inserts because they were Happy Meal things. There was like a Halloween line of Lego that was in Happy Meals, and there was a ghost, and there was like a little coffin with a Dracula in it and stuff. And I had all those just like randomly with my other Lego, and we'd have like games where the Lego character died and then put the little ghost insert over the top. I was creased. It was my childhood. And then Charlie Day's character's
As the
helmet
space
has got a
with the
little
brain!
break in it.
With the
Mine
brain!
had one because they all did, because they were really badly made. It was
And
the
since
film
Adam
that
has
was made
tried
with
to like
love.
emotionally blackmail me in the past with, oh, but this film, it helped Ruby get better. Fine. This was my first date movie with Georgia. We decided we were going to be a couple, and as part of our first date, we went to go and see Lego Movie, and it blew our minds. We loved it.
Okay.
So there's your emotional blackmail right back at you.
Right in my heart. Gemma, number 5.
The Boy in the Striped Pajamas.
Oh, yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Okay. Is that disagreeing, or is it like, I can't believe you say it?
My story of Boy in the Striped Pajamas. So this was when I was working as a TA at Collective. So what I did is I did a term as a teacher, and then I left because I had foresight and eyes, and then I went and did supply, but then I really needed a job, so I ended up going back as a TA. And my mate Sarah was teaching an English class, and I was in her English class, and we were reading the book. Now, advice to any trainee teachers out there, especially trainee English teachers, Holly, I hope you can agree with this. Maybe read the full book before you teach the book. Or maybe if you're going to show the kids the film on the last day of the Easter half term, maybe watch the film before you decide to do that. So we literally ended the day with death.
Yeah. Pretty abject, horrific, shocking death.
Never seen such a quiet class stand behind the chairs at the end of the day. And I went, Happy Easter, kids.
Tell you what, I remember, because I've not seen the film, but I've read the book, because, will she kill me if I share this? Oh, screw it. Georgia likes it when I read something to her while she's trying to get to sleep.
Okay.
And one of the first books I did that with was Boy in the Striped Pajamas. I'd never even read it. I didn't know anything about it. I just knew that picture of Asa Butterfield sat on the opposite side of the fence. And I forget what it was about from that. I didn't quite know that he was like the son of a commandant. That's, fun to it. But I remember getting to that point at the end of the book and just being like, excuse me? What? What is it you don't like? Is it the film or is it the narrative?
No, it's the film, yeah. So the book I'm not particularly bothered about. But it's the film. I think the acting in the film is shockingly hammy, like really, really, really hammy, really bad. But also, you know what it is towards the end of it, but obviously this is part of the story in the book as well, is how everybody speaks of the tragedy that the little boy, Asa Butterfield's character, Bruno, that he ends up getting killed accidentally. And I kind of sit there and go,
that happened to a lot more people.
There was like 6 million others, and they were like, it was just so sad that he just didn't know, and he just like ended up getting killed. It was like, it was also really sad that all of the other ones just got killed because of who they are, not because it was an accident, but because somebody systematically planned their death. That was pretty sad too.
Georgia's message, Gem. Great effing point, to be fair. Never thought about that.
Yeah, that was the first thing I thought at the end of it, where everyone was like, oh my God, it's so tragic. He got killed by accident. I was like, yeah.
That was the tragedy in this film.
Trained him.
In pushing past those people who were already in there.
To death, and then they're like, oh, we don't need you anymore. Yeah. No, that's of course, that bit's not tragic, but the one that shouldn't have to die, that did die, that way.
The one that shouldn't have died, yeah. The rest of it's fine.
Yeah, they could just go. So yeah, I really hate that part of it, but I just hate how absolutely hammy it is. But also, I feel like people sort of give weight to the film because of the subject matter. So the subject matter is obviously intensely harrowing. It's a Holocaust film, or it's a film, with Holocaust as a theme. So obviously everybody automatically pays it attention. But when you actually look at it, was it a good film? No. The acting was terrible. The plot was terrible. The dialogue was terrible. But it's almost like one of those things where you can't say it's a terrible film because look what it's about. But
Yeah.
you know, it was just I thought the acting, not even, I mean, Asa Butterfield is obviously a kid in it, but I can't remember who plays the mum, but I think she is just absolutely wooden in it.
Vera Farmiga, she's better in other stuff.
She's
Yeah.
really good at stuff, yeah.
Wooden, absolutely wooden, really hammy.
Isn't it David
like,
Thewlis as the dad as well?
Yeah.
Yeah, so like the cast is good. It should
yeah, it's
work.
a great cast, and somebody else who plays a guy called Pavel in it, who's like a Jewish doctor in it. I can't remember his name, but he's a big name as well. Lots of big names in it with I think that were attracted by to the film by the fact that, oh, look what it's about, that's really heavy, that's really intense, but it's no Schindler's List. It's not it's not got that kind of, yeah, it's a child's book, of course, but I just, yeah, it's that last bit of it where I'm just like, also everybody's really sad about the other kid dying, yeah. And the acting in it, I think it's just a really terrible film that everybody raves about.
Yeah, you bring up Schindler's List as well, and I think your boy Denzel brings a really good point as to why Schindler's List was as good as it was. Because I think he's being asked the question. I think it was a predominantly like a film about Black people and their lives that he was in. And he was the question was basically put to him is like the importance of having a Black director in there to direct that story. And he gives a really good example of Steven Spielberg obviously directed Schindler's List. Martin Scorsese directed Goodfellas. Now, Steven Spielberg probably could have done a good job directing Goodfellas, and likewise, Martin Scorsese could have done a good job doing Schindler's List. But the cultural knowledge that you have with you and the significance that has to you, that story has to you because of your culture, that's what elevates it. So that, because looking at it, I think it was a British directed film, Boy in the Striped Pajamas. Like Schindler's List is a very pertinent story to Steven Spielberg because of the fact that he is Jewish, and I imagine he will have some people who were killed in some family who were killed in the Holocaust, and maybe some who survived. But that will be a very pertinent story to him. It might not just hold the same. I don't know if Mark Herman is Jewish himself, but that could be why. Like, yeah, I think you should have a horse in the race if you're making a film about such a harrowing subject matter.
Holly, you've got time, you're number 5.
The Imitation Game. I wrote notes, and my note for this is blah blah worthy English drama blah. And I stand by it. This might be a hot take, but I don't think Benedict Cumberbatch is all that. I think he's a perfectly fine actor, but I don't think he's an amazing actor. And I like this is really boring sentence. I like Alan Turing. I admire Alan Turing as a historical figure for a number of reasons, and I think this film did him dirty. Like this film kind of makes it seem like he was very socially awkward. He wasn't. He was very gregarious. He was very outgoing. He was very friendly, and a confident person. But it feels like they kind of smell awards, and it, like in Tropic Thunder, where they make a joke of using the R word, which I won't repeat, obviously, but using learning difficulties or neurodivergence as a way to show how good of an actor you are. Well, that's not actually how this historic figure is known to have acted and moved around the world. So portraying him in that way, it feels disrespectful. And then I just thought it was a real paint by numbers British war drama. Like, throw Keira Knightley in as well. Bish bash bosh. It will win an award.
Like Charles Dance's character's done really dirty as well, because he was like one of the biggest proponents of Alan Turing. He had to fight. In the film, he's seen as the big bad military. We're wasting money on you. He had to fight for him a lot, and in the end, I think Churchill came in And it would have been a really good scene to do this. I don't know why they didn't. Churchill literally went to Bletchley Park because a lot of people in cabinet were like, "Why are we pumping so much money into this? It's a waste. We could be making munitions. We could be sending across food rations." Churchill went to Bletchley Park. He spoke to everyone. He had a look at what they were doing, and he came back and he went, "Give them everything they're asking for, everything they are asking for, because it's that important." And like you were saying now, like, oh, let's because they were definitely going for autism. Let's not beat around the bush. They were going for autism. He is ASC. That's how we're doing. And like, how much more tragic would it have been if he was this lively, vivacious guy, as he actually was, and then you see him in that scene after he's had to undergo the chemical castration treatments, and that's when you see that marked change in his personality, because you would. Like, that's what's done it, and it really highlights how horrific it is that we had to wait until Gordon Brown was Prime Minister for him to have an apology and for him to be pardoned of his crimes. Like, that would have really hit home hard at that point. But yeah, I remember not loving Imitation Game, but I remember being like, yeah, I wish they'd done a bit more with the dilemma of, because they have that one scene where it's like, oh, if we warn this ship, the Nazis will know we've broken their code. So,
and one of the code breakers' brother's best friend is on the ship. Oh no!
Yeah, that wasn't the thing. If a lot more of the film had been, I get that the drama of the film has got to be cracking the code, but yeah, like you said, they did do Alan a little bit dirty.
Okay, number 4 is another bomb. My number 4 is Return of the Jedi.
No, I get that.
It's rubbish. It's rubbish. Like, there's nothing about it that I like, and
Nothing.
It's dull. Nothing. It's dull. It's boring. It's plodding. They talk too much. Nothing really happens. They introduced Ewoks. Who gives a shit? Like, let's just move on.
You're doing the Emperor really dirty there, Adam.
It's rubbish. It's rubbish.
No, it's not. The Emperor's not.
It's the worst in the
with
series.
You. I hate the Ewoks.
The worst.
I hate the Ewoks. A lot of the dialogue in this is a bit, Days of Our Lives. But the stuff between Luke, Vader, and the Emperor genuinely is some of the best I've seen in Star Wars. Hale doesn't care.
This probably means that at some point this week, and I say this week as in not right now, as in when this podcast goes out, that some kid is going to come up to me and go, "Oh, you said the S word on your podcast." But yeah, there you go. Yeah, Return of the Jedi. What a lot of rubbish. Gemma, what's your number 4?
Oh my god.
Number 4, Manchester by the Sea. So crap that they just called it. They named it after the film it was in, because nothing else happened. Nothing happened in that film. That they went, what could we possibly name this film? Because nothing happens. They won't just name it after the town. So, like, A Story of My Life is just going to be called Staley Bridge. That's it. Just sum it up.
The story of your life is going to be Staley Vegas. Let's get it right.
Vegas. Casey Affleck. I mean, I'm not an Affleck fan. I'm not an Affleck fan at all. I don't like Ben Affleck. So when you throw Casey Affleck in there, just being moody, and there's just this whole thing. All right, I get that it was a pretty big thing that happens to him, but there's a part of it you just think, just get over yourself. You don't need to be rude to everybody. All right, just don't be so rude. Right? Mm-hmm. It's honestly, I did make it to the end of that film, but I just looked at it and went, that was absolutely terrible. You could have told that story in about 3 seconds and it would have been as interesting. It really stretched out. Just a really moody, brooding film that I just felt really, really, really bored me. People absolutely raved about it. I was reading about it last night. People said it was one of the best films of 2016 when Finding Dory was out in that year. So that doesn't make any sense, does it? Because Finding Dory is epic. Manchester by the Sea, absolutely terrible.
Lean away. I mean, give it its due. I will say I probably would rather watch Finding Dory than Manchester by the Sea.
So that is my exact point that
There's
I keep
a nice
saying
little
on
double
these
bill
podcasts.
for you. Manchester by the Sea. Finding Dory's in there.
Yeah, it's going to cheer you up. Given the 2 DVDs in front of you right now, and you want to be entertained, do you want to watch Casey Affleck Casey Affleck being moody and deciding he doesn't want to look after his nephew, right? Or do you want to watch Finding Dory? I want to watch Finding Dory, and that was in the same year, so therefore that should have got all of the Oscars. I just thought that Manchester by the Sea was something that everybody raved about before they even saw it. Oh, it's just going to be this, it's just going to be that. It's just so powerful and dramatic, and it was just this boring, broody, moody guy that doesn't want to look after his nephew after his brother had died. End of conversation. It was crap.
Yep, fine. Holly, number 4.
Gosford Park from 2001. It's the marketing more than anything for this. It was pre Downton Abbey, because Julian Fellows then kind of made Downton Abbey based on the blueprint of Gosford Park, really. So it was marketed as a murder mystery, and I am a massive Agatha Christie fan. My mum is a gigantic Agatha Christie fan, owns every single one, has read every single one. So we were going to the cinema together with my grandma as well to go see what we thought was going to be a murder mystery film. Haven't had one of those for ages. Oh my God, we were so excited. And that is not what it is. That is not what it is at all. It's just a very, very, very talky, very, very, very worthy, very, very slow, like dissection of upstairs, downstairs politics in a turn of the century house. And a murder happens, but no one cares. And then you find out who did it, and you still don't care. I was so disappointed. I've rarely been that disappointed going to the cinema, but again, it was marketed as one thing and it was not that thing. If I watched it today with kind of the Downton Abbey idea of, I didn't really like Downton Abbey, but that idea that we're actually talking about class politics of the upstairs downstairs thing, maybe I would feel differently about it. But I'll refer you back to blah blah with the English drama blah.
How grateful were you then for the warm embrace of Ryan Johnson in the mid 2010s? It's like, it's okay, we've got Knives Out.
So happy.
Ollie, your number 4.
Another mentioned one. I'm feeling really vindicated here. La La Land. La La Land's a tricky one because there is an awful lot about La La Land I actually do like. I love Ryan Gosling in it, as you kind of hinted at before, and I love Emma Stone in it. I think Emma Stone acts really, really well in it. I love their argument in like the third act, which leads to like is kind of the beginning of the end for them. And I know it's a bit of a tired metaphor. You've got the kettle boiling in the background as the tension rises. Oh, clever. But like they act it so well. They act it so believably. And you get where both of them are coming from. But it's again that isn't Hollywood just magical? Like, I remember being surprised when like people just start getting out of their cars on the highway and like kind of half-assedly dancing over their cars and doing that kind of, and then we head away, and you know, that kind of mumbled, awful Billie Eilish singing that has infected everyone's brains recently. No one is singing like they actually want to do it. And you've got a white man trying to tell a black man how to do jazz in Ryan Gosling talking to John Legend, you know, actual qualified, very good musician John Legend. Like, I just love as well, Start a Fire. This is my main thing with this film. Start a Fire is billed as this devil song that we should hate. And, you know, it's awful and it's the antithesis of what we should be striving towards with music. It's the only song in the whole film I actually think is an absolute bop. Unequivocally, it's a great song. It's so good. And it's because they've got an actual singer singing it. Like, I really like Emma Stone's audition song. I don't think she's got the best singing voice, but just the power and the raw emotion behind it, fine. But yeah, it's the way everyone went on about this. It's like, oh, it's a throwback to those old musicals. No, in those old musicals, they could actually dance, they could actually sing, and in the nicest way. And I think Holly would be sad about this and fine, but there was a reason that that style of film just died a death, because it was all about, isn't Hollywood magic? Oh, I'm currently the show I'm currently doing with my drama group is Funny Girl. You know, let's do a show about how shows are made and show business. It's boring. It's really dull. Like, musicals these days have evolved to, there is a plot, and when you can't get your feelings across with words, you sing it. If that's still not enough, you then dance. Whereas this was just like, oh, I'm going to sing because it's time to sing, and it's only going to be Ryan Gosling. Like, it's not a thing that everyone, like, they have one chorus number at the beginning and then that's it. Then you've got 3 characters singing ever again. Sometimes it's in the context of they're performing music. Sometimes it's just they're having a little sing to themselves. Okay. I think it really thought it was doing something really clever and really special. And
yeah,
it's
very, oh, look at me.
Yeah. And like Gemma's talked about a couple of those. Like, you've talked about one with like Banshees of Inisherin. I can't remember which one Gemma's was, but it was very, ask me what it means. Oh, ask me what it means. Metaphor. Oh, like, I don't care.
Yeah.
I haven't got to it yet, but I'll get to it.
Oh, there you go. Well, Gemma, you're next. So I don't know if it's your number 3, but.
Oh.
No, it's not my number 3. Number 3 is Great Gatsby. Now, considering I'm a Leo fan, massive Leo fan, just came up in my top actors. Great Gatsby, hated it. I just turned it off in the end. It got past the 15-minute rule, but it just didn't touch anything. It didn't make me feel anything. I didn't enjoy it. People went mad for it, didn't they? They went absolutely mental for it. There's always that image that you see with Leo with the champagne glass. Everyone started doing 20s fashion in their houses and all that lot. It brought out this whole new wave of different color schemes, and with the gold,
black and gold Art Deco style.
There's modern music to back it because we're edgy and different.
No, rubbish.
CGI's crap though, isn't it?
I think I gave it maybe about 40 minutes. I didn't like Tobey Maguire in it. I didn't like any of it. I just didn't like it. So it just, I'm not saying it's terrible, but I'm just saying that I can't believe everyone went so mad for it when I just was like, nah, I'm a bit bored now.
Yeah.
Holly,
go on.
I was going to say about Great Gatsby, it has the same problem that adaptations of Lolita have, that it's going from a book to a film where the book is about a character who's supposed to look cool or supposed to look handsome or is supposed to be having this better life, but they're perhaps not. They're perhaps lying to themselves, and you as the reader work that out from reading the book. But if you have to see it on screen, Leo looks like really cool and handsome and successful, because you've got to show what he's projecting in the book, but now you've got to show it, so it becomes real. The same in Lolita, like the character says he's handsome and the character says the girls that he likes are different from other girls, and so they show that in the film, but that's not probably what's happening. He's probably a horrible, ugly mess, and the girls are just normal girls because he's horrible. So it's one of the it's a book that doesn't quite translate to film because it's about the visuals and how they are shallow, but in a film you've got to show the visuals, and you can't show that they're as shallow.
I know that's one big problem that like Blood Meridian has, because they've been trying to make that a film forever, but it's going to be like, part of it is just the absolute horrific violence that they would have to show, because like they routinely just scalp entire villages of people, because that's what people did in the American West at the time. But then the character that you're meant to back, the book is never really clear on how much he is participating in that violence. And if you do it as a film, you've got to make a decision. And one of the strengths of the book is you're going to have a bunch of people who say he doesn't really take part, he's more of a spectator. And then a bunch of people who say, well, no, he would be taking part in it. He's part of the gang and he's got a propensity to violence and all that. But if that's your main character, you can show him doing that. But if you don't, are you being faithful? Like, yeah, there's all kinds of problems that come up with like big, you know, particularly weird American stories like Lolita and Blood Meridian.
Holly, you number 3.
Every time I'm sitting listening to others, Jamie's happily playing with his Duplo, and as soon as it goes to my turn, he's hit himself on the head with a piece of Duplo.
Jamie.
I'm assuming that Child Protective Services are on their way to my house right now, because anyone listening to the podcast just hearing a child crying in the background while I talk about films that I don't like. He's safe. He's okay.
Jamie, shut up. Mommy has an opinion.
I have an opinion and I want to say it. So I have one beef with the Lord of the Rings films, and that is because in 2003 I was watching interviews with the cast of Lord of the Rings, because I was really excited to watch. I don't know which one came out in 2003. Was it The Return of the King? I don't know.
Yeah.
And I was watching interviews with them, and they were all being asked, what's the best film of the year? And it was one person after the other going, Lost in Translation. Oh, Lost in Translation. Oh, I just saw Lost in Translation. Oh, Lost in Translation should win the Oscar. And I was like, if these people who I really love the films of love Lost in Translation, I should watch it. I should not have watched it. I understand that people like it, that Bill Murray is blah, 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 Scarlett Johansson's chemistry and blah, 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 blah. It's so slow. Just so slow. And I don't really like the people in it. Sometimes, you know, when you're watching a film and people are in a bit of a rough situation, you just want to give them a slap. I was 100% there. It's a lack of empathy on my part, I understand. But it's just like the whole time, just like, just go do something else. You're not a successful actor anymore. That's fine. Like, go do telemarketing. And like Scarlett Johansson, you don't love your boyfriend anymore. Go home. Off you go. Off you go.
Go somewhere else. I
don't need to see them just like wallowing in their own self.
If you don't like it, just leave.
14,000 hours. Hated it. No.
Yeah.
I was looking then, because I wondered if it was some like weird contractual situation with Warner Brothers. So I wondered if Warner Brothers had like distributed Lost in Translation. I don't think they did. So yeah, that's a weird take for them.
People loved it. Also, just a teeny tiny issue that quite a few films which are set in Japan, because Japan has such a kind of singular culture and has been so isolated for many years, and its singular culture has become now like very trendy or very interesting to people because it is quite different to Western culture. There is sometimes this like undercurrent of laughing at Japanese culture, that it's a bit oh, look how weird it is. Oh, look how strange the politeness is. Lost in Translation is by no means the worst at this. I think they are trying to avoid that, but there are moments where it's there and it makes me a bit uncomfortable.
Yeah. My number 3, you two know my opinion of this. Gemma, I don't know how you feel about it. Titanic. Because it's rubbish. Titanic is trash.
No,
it's rubbish.
It's a firm no.
Oh, it's so bad. It's
my favorite thing from this is that like Adam. I'm pretty sure Adam is the one who's had like the hottest takes, like the most universally panned takes. Like, I've split the room, sure, but it's been 50-50. You're the only one who's had all 3 people being.
I get everyone against everyone.
The
thing is, though, when we did the $1 billion tier list, and obviously, like I've sort of taken them and I've put them in TikToks and YouTube Shorts and all that kind of stuff. There's a bit where after I veto it and I put it in a fail, Michael just goes, "But millions of people died." Like, it's a film, Michael. It's
Also,
okay.
it was 1,500. It wasn't millions.
He might have said hundreds. Maybe he said hundreds.
That would have been a very big ship.
Yeah,
Yes.
that was Noah's Ark just breaking in two.
I think he did say hundreds. My bad. But either way, I remember watching it as a kid, and to be fair, I think it is the only time that I've probably seen it all the way through. And it was such a big deal. Like, everyone's either seen Titanic or someone that's going to the cinema to watch Titanic. And then when it eventually came out on video, like, it's like, who's got Titanic? The film's that long that they've had to put it on 2 VHS tapes. So, like, you're gonna have to like swap and change halfway through. And then, like, my stepdad was off doing something one night, so my mum was like, right, Saturday night, we're gonna get a KFC and we're going to borrow Lisa's copy of Titanic on VHS. So then we went round, we picked it up. I'm trying to eat a tub of beans in the dark because all the lights are off because we're watching Titanic. And, it happens and it's like, right, yeah, that thing's happening. Yeah, all right, yeah, there's a steamy sex scene. Yeah, okay, yeah. All right, okay, right, the boat's breaking in half. Okay, yeah. Right, now he's on the door. No, she's on the door. Right, he's drowning. He's going to die. He's going to freeze to death. All right, okay. Can he just like get on the door with her? Can he not do that?
Right, no. They tried. They both try getting on the door and the door sinks, so Jack gets off.
Right,
it's a dead
fine.
team. Oh, they could both fit on the door. They would have both died. The door sank.
But then this told me everything that I needed to know as like 7-year-old or 8-year-old Aaron, were like, both of my sisters are crying, my mum's crying, right? And she's looking at him and she's going, Jack, wake up, Jack. And I thought she was just gonna go, oh, sod off then, and then just push him away. There you go. But it's just like, every now and again, someone will mention it. Oh, I came, you'll go, oh, it's such a lovely film. It's just boring. It's just too long.
It is long. They didn't need to focus on the love story for that long. And
just
it's not
like
that interesting.
It doesn't need to be that.
It's not about anything other than the love story. Focus on it that long. It's not about the ship.
Is the last thing you remember just when we get to America, I'm leaving with you, and then you stop the film, Gemma?
Yeah.
Is that what you do?
But no, because at the end of it, she you see all of the things on the pictures of everything that she did because she loved him. It is fundamentally about the love story. The story of the Titanic had already been told, and we all knew it anyway. We knew how it ended. We knew the story of the Titanic. The film is fundamentally about their love story. But also, I remember either reading or hearing somewhere that James Cameron says that one of his biggest regrets is about the door and how he wished he'd made the door smaller so that nobody would have spent the last 25 years going, he could have just got on the door. He just said,
get on there, the door. But they do both try and get on and it starts to sink. That's the thing. I don't remember
that bit. I just remember that he's maybe. But
I think he's just sick of hearing people whinge about it.
I don't know how you can say that it's too much about the love story because it literally just is about the love story.
I'm not necessarily saying that focus should have been taken away from it, but it's a very long film, and for half of that to just be this kind of love story between them, like I think you could have trimmed some fat in those earlier scenes.
No, I disagree. I just think that is what you weren't going there to learn about Titanic. We all knew the story. It was about Jack and Rose. That was fundamentally what it was about.
But what I did love about it was because, like, most of the time when you see Titanic films, you just see like a ship sinking in the background and stuff like that. I've said this to Holly. I've said this to Adam. There's this weird little crossover where films actually contribute to scientific discovery. So as one example, Steven Spielberg gave paleontologists access to computers they could never have access to in a million years. And off the back of that, they were able to start to simulate how dinosaurs would have actually moved. And it was and it gave them new insights into how dinosaurs moved. And similar with this, because James Cameron was like, give me all of your money. Was it Fox who made this one? I think it was Fox.
Yeah.
Give me all of your money. He wanted, and he's mad into that stuff anyway. He's like submarine down to the Titanic. He really cares about it. He got computers in to give a much more accurate picture of how the Titanic went down. And I think the spectacle of seeing the ship kind of tilt and then crack like that, and just the boat just slam down on all these people and the funnel falling off, and it's horrific. And but it's a proper old school. That half of the film is a really good, like, old-fashioned disaster movie. Like, I'm not saying they're good movies, but like Twister, like Inferno, like Dante's Peak. You don't really get disaster movies like that anymore. And as an example of one of those, I love Titanic. And to kind of tug at not heartstrings, because this is a little bit where I'm surprised, Adam, that how old were you, 7 or 8? Because I was a similar age when I watched it. I am surprised that you didn't have the nice awakening of the first pair of boobs that you'd ever seen in a film.
That doesn't mean that it's all of a sudden a good film because I've seen
I don't know.
It's
a point in the favor, because genuinely, up to this point, I thought you were. In my head, you just weren't allowed to show that in film at all. You could suggest nudity, you could suggest sex, and I only had a rough idea at this point what sex was. You could, show 2 people naked in bed but fully covered.
There was a certain part of the video shop that you weren't allowed to go in.
Yeah, exactly. But because they even do it. She starts to derobe and then it cuts away and you only see above, and then it shows the shot and you can see her boobs. And I turned to my mum like shocked. It's like, are they allowed to show that? And my mum was just like, yeah.
They have. What are you gonna do? It was
just like, oh my god, like you can show boobs in films. Oh my god, what?
Ollie, did I ask you what your number 3 was?
I've not done my number 3
No,
yet.
I've just totally balls the order up then, don't I? Go on, what's your number 3?
Fine.
Oh no.
Fire in the Hole. I'm really hoping Jen will back me on this, but maybe not. Jungle Book.
He means the original cartoon version of the Jungle Book.
I mean the original.
The original? Get in the bin.
Yes, Jenna, yes.
You wanted me to back you on that? Absolutely not. Get in the bin. What should be
the worst era of Disney on balance? Just recycled
it's just
animation.
What they were at that time. They hadn't got to the point where it was very early for Disney, wasn't it?
Sorry, no. Early was Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, and that won Oscars not just because
you can't call Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs early. It was the first one.
The first one.
Come on.
But like that's the point. This isn't early Disney. This is the middle of Disney, and the scraping together.
I mean, Disney's 100 now. That's middle of Disney now is Black Cauldron, so you can go that way.
You're probably right. But all right, this was the middle of like hand-drawn animated Disney. How's that for you?
Okay.
Yeah. And what have you got in quick succession? You've got The Adventures of Winnie the Pooh, The Aristocats, just garbage tier Disney films. They look ugly. Like, I am not a fan of the Disney remakes, really, on any level. This is the only one where I fundamentally just prefer the remake. I think the remake is a much better film. The story is more gripping. The characters are more interesting. There's very little I like about the Jungle Book. I went into it recently as well because I'm aware this is something that I've held onto for a long time, and I know I'm bad for being like, no, that's what I thought about it back then. We've done the Disney marathon. We're currently just done Tarzan. So I've watched this and I was just so bored watching Jungle Book. And I don't buy into this. Oh, but Ruby do when she was ill. You didn't give me a single counterpoint, Adam.
I don't need to give you a single counterpoint. That's just one thing.
That's the only argument you gave me. That's the only thing you said.
It's a timeless film, and you're going back to it and thinking
it's incredibly dated. Let's get music that was just popular at the time. We're not doing these kind of timeless.
Yeah, and Disney haven't stopped doing that. Disney haven't stopped doing that. Let's give it music at the time.
The kids
I'm so confused by this take about the music. I love the songs from Jungle Book.
No one now is getting
how are they dated that we can't enjoy them now?
I'm not saying dated that you can't enjoy them. It's just it's the equivalent of like Illumination films these days, like the Grinch film, getting a song by Pharrell because it's what's popular at the time. It just that
It's
immediately
not the
it,
equivalent of that.
it is. It is.
No chance.
It is.
It's the
music
character
that was.
still singing
But it don't matter.
a
They're still
song
singing.
that makes sense in context of the
Why would
songs.
King Louis, an orangutan in the Indian jungle, know who Louis Armstrong was, and why would he emulate him? Other than it's what's
Why would he
popular.
be singing?
It's just a kids' film. It doesn't need to be overanalyzed like that. Is it good fun when King Louis sings that song? Yes. So therefore, it's good.
No, it's not. In fairness, I
Get in
hate
the bin.
Phil Harris. I hate Phil Harris.
Turn him off, Adam. Turn him off.
For the
Oh, the bare necessities don't get me started. The only song I genuinely love is The Elephants. The Elephants are great. I will give you that. The Elephants are funny. But
What about
no.
the vultures?
Yeah,
Beatles?
Oh, you want to talk
Brilliant.
about popular music at the time? Let's try and get the Beatles, but they are too expensive, so we'll just parody the Beatles with the vultures.
That's just so
for
much
some
fun.
reason.
That is so much fun that
Just
they are the
only
Beatles.
saving grace about the Jungle Book as a film is that it's short and I don't have to look at it for too long. That's the only thing I like about it. Every single thing is just, oh, Mowgli's falling out with Bagheera, so he's going to go and be with this animal for a bit. Oh, he's falling out with Bagheera again, so he's going to go and be with this animal. It's just,
It's like
awful.
he's like a three-nager. Like that's what children do.
I'm not saying, yeah,
like-
but that doesn't a compelling story make. Just because it might be accurate, I don't care. I much prefer the Mowgli we get in the live action remake.
Totally overanalyzed it.
He acts like a child, but I get why he does what he does. He doesn't come across as a brat. We're meant to like him. I'm very up for Car just eating him because I hate him.
give over, man.
Nah.
Right, twos. Holly, you have an ally in me for your number 2. I completely agree. It's not on my list, but I completely agree.
I've got to find it.
Oh.
I've been playing puppets for Jamie. Oh, yes. Oh, I'm so happy I have an ally. Okay, so it's from 2022. Loads of my films on the list have been really new ones. The Northman.
I've not seen it.
Absolute drivel.
Hated The Northman. I hated it. It's about Prince Amleth, which is anagram of Hamlet. So it follows the story beats of Hamlet. Like his father is killed by his uncle and his mother is stolen away by his uncle. And then he goes out into the wilderness and becomes a marauding Viking. But then he comes back to challenge his uncle. It's Hamlet.
So what did I have in my head when I watched the entire thing?
Lion King.
The
Lion
King's
King.
better.
That was literally it.
Yeah. Lion King is so much better. But I don't know, it's just a nasty film. It's dark. It's grubby looking. It's not pretty to look at. The characters are all horrible. All of them. Prince Amleth is a horrible person. I don't want him to succeed. I don't feel sorry for him for what's happened, because as soon as his dad is killed and his mum's taken away, he's off killing other people's dads and stealing their women immediately. There's no moral high ground that the hero has in any way, shape, or form. So that would be fine as long as he didn't then blame his uncle for doing the exact thing he then spends 20 years of his life doing. Hate it. Also, and I'm going to be a bit of an SJW now, I hate it when there are huge age gaps between the man and the woman in films.
That's uncomfortable.
I just watched Big Little Lies. Nicole Kidman and Alexander Skarsgård are a married couple in Big Little Lies, okay? They're a married couple. In this film, Nicole Kidman is his mum.
And there's even a point where she goes to kiss him. Like, kiss him.
Like, Nicole Kidman is 9 years older than Alexander Skarsgård. So as a married couple, that's a little bit of an unusual age gap, but not a crazy age gap. So in Big Little Lies, it totally works. 9 years is a very small age gap for us to believe that that's his mum, because she looks great in it as well. They haven't aged her up or anything. She looks fab. And then his love interest is Anya Taylor-Joy, who's 20 years younger than him.
Oof.
So his mum's 9 years older and his love interest is 20 years younger. It
And
was
she
like
looks young. I love Anya Taylor-Joy,
she
but she
looks like a
looks
child in it.
Yeah.
And, you know, she's a great actress. She was absolutely fine in it. But there was just it left a really nasty taste in the mouth. It was very, I don't know. I don't know how to say this without sounding like a misandrist, but it was just very, very overtly masculine. It's like, what do men like real men? Rah! You know, or we like marauding, rah, and getting revenge and getting our woman, rah. That's the feeling I got from it. And that director is much
I know you're
better
taking the
than
mick,
that.
but I genuinely feel hyped right now. So
No.
it works.
The
It's
whole
what
bit
I want.
where they go and see Willem Dafoe and like
Yeah.
they're all farting and burping and like apparently that's okay because you've got to walk around like a dog and fart and burp. And then the whole like bit, the thing about the Lion King, right? And as much as I was sort of going straight away, I was like, oh, it's just a bit like the Lion King, and then my head did that thing where it went, well, that then it's like Hamlet, and I was like, right, okay, but it gets so much like the Lion King that the final confrontation between Hamlet and his uncle, right? Not only are they stark bollock naked for whatever reason they tend to be, they're also doing it in a volcano. So all that stuff in the Lion King where there's ash flying around, that's essentially what they're doing.
But did Amleth have two substitute gay dads looking after him when he was in the wilderness?
No, and that was what he was missing.
That's really what it was missing. Timon and Pumbaa.
If we had Viking Timon and Pumbaa, that
it
would
have
have
been fine.
lifted the whole thing.
Yeah, next level.
And a Viking Zazu or something.
Yeah. And that bit where Bjork turns up.
Oh, because she's Scandinavian. No, she's Icelandic, isn't she? Yeah.
You know.
Well, she's a famous Viking. That's all they're doing.
Just bizarre.
It was very strange. And it has actually been, and this is not what the director wanted. So it was not his intention. I'm sure there, you know, if you know anything about Icelandic culture and obviously Viking culture, they were marauding murderers.
Yeah.
But I think it's probably a comment on that masculinity and how it is actually bad. But a lot of white nationalists have co-opted this film.
I do remember hearing a lot. I remember hearing a lot of good things about this film, and then I didn't. Like very suddenly, it really felt like on a dime the opinion of this film changed.
Yeah, it wasn't made for those people. It's not the filmmaker's fault, but they have glommed onto this film. So that tells you something about how you would feel watching it.
God, you must feel awful if you put that out and it's not your intention, and that's how it's been taken. You'd feel awful, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Ollie, you're number 2.
Okay. Potential. Not with you. Mainly with Holly.
Oh.
Spirited Away. Spirited Away. I really wanted to like it. The number of times it has been called the best animated film ever. Unequivocally, it's the best animated film ever. And I watched it. I wanted to like it because I love Miyazaki's art style. I think it's really unique, and I love other Miyazaki films. We talked about it before. I really wanted to like Spirited Away, and I was bored. I was confused. The story meandered from being so, did you know that the word subtle has a silent B in it, to just so vague I couldn't follow exactly what it was trying to say. I know Holly's arguments against this. I know that, you know, that kind of, I can't remember the word for it, but that kind of childlike wonder and that sense of, oh, it's what's happening, you know, the magic of being on a train, and they're on the train together with no face, and oh, isn't it magical? No, it's dull. Visually stunning. I'm not going to take that away from it, because you'd be stupid to say that about any Miyazaki film. It looks incredible, but the story, I've said it before, and Holly has a counter argument, but I cannot get past the fact that the story for this film just feels like it was written by a child. And that might be something to do with Japanese storytelling, because at the same time, I don't mind stories like that, because I much prefer Ponyo. I think Ponyo is like really silly, but I don't think it pretends to not be. I think, you know, it's very, very, it's so childlike that you can just kind of buy into it. My Neighbor Totoro, to a point does the same, but I just didn't like that as much. Whereas Ponyo is just, it's so silly, like, fine, I can forgive it for what it is. This almost feels like it's trying to toe the line between this sense of childlike wonder and this big epic story about pollution and greed and all sorts. And it's a mess. And I really, really do not like this. I really don't like it. Yeah, like, and I think as well, like, compared to some of the others, like, I don't like Howl's Moving Castle. I know Holly really likes that one, so sure. But I don't think Howl's Moving Castle gets like mad plaudits. I think that was one of the ones that wasn't as well received. And I get kind of what it was trying to do, and I get that it's based on a book, and there's only so much that they can do. Yeah, Spirited Away is just a mess, and I felt tired having watched it. I felt drained trying to keep up with all of these like pinballing plot points. I feel like it is the worst film to watch as someone with ADHD. Like, it's almost a simulation, if you like. If you don't have ADHD, I would probably recommend watching Spirited Away. And it's like, and then this happened. Oh, look at this. Oh, there's dust mite. Oh, look at this guy. He looks a bit like a spider. Oh, what? There's a witch. They're in a bathhouse. She's trying to. Oh, she's not hidden anymore. She's got to work. Oh, but then No Face comes in and he's offering them. Oh, they love the. Oh, God, he's getting bigger and greed and metaphor. What? Ah! I'm just so overstimulated by this film. It was hell. Just
Wow.
Hellish. Absolutely hellish film. I just
Ollie, would you care to say anything, or are you just
Your opinion in it? I really loved it. I
do appreciate that, like, the argument of there are those Miyazaki films which are aimed towards children and that sense of childlike wonder, and
but
I'm much more
Spirited Away is less so.
Yeah, but also, like, I think I like the extreme ends of Miyazaki's spectrum. Either go full child like Ponyo, which, yeah, Ponyo is a nice bit of innocent fun and the visuals in it are stunning and that's why you watch it, or go full epic story, Nausicaa, Castle in the Sky, Princess Mononoke. Don't try and toe a line, because it doesn't work for me. For me, it really doesn't work at all. But at the same time, I really didn't like Kiki's Delivery Service, so maybe I don't like the childlike stuff. It's just, maybe Ponyo is just so silly. I'm like, yeah, sure, whatever.
Okay, my number one. Sorry, not my number one. My number two. Skipping over. My number two.
Spoilers.
Yeah, my number two. Why is this the highest grossing film of all time? Because it's rubbish. Avatar. Like, absolute drosh. Like,
I'd make a counter argument just in this context. Is it well received?
Yeah.
It's made a lot of money. Is it well received?
It's well received to the point that it was nominated for however many Oscars it was nominated for. And the Golden Globes, as rubbish as they are, gave it Best Motion Picture Drama. Like,
really?
Yeah. Are you mad?
Yeah,
are you
that's stupid. Like, I don't mind this, like, clearing up awards when it comes to, like, visual effects. It looks stunning.
All the production stuff, fine, right? Yeah. You give it visual effects, you give it sound mixing, you give it sound editing, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely fine. Everything else, not a chance.
Yeah,
not a chance.
It's like, Pocahontas, but worse.
It's Pocahontas, it's Dances with Wolves. It's like the
it's
laziest...
Fern Gully.
It's Fern Gully. The laziest thing to me, and I have said this to you a lot before, like the fact that they basically needed an element for them to struggle to get, and they called it unobtainium. Like, what's that about?
Unobtainium. Not even
like,
trying.
We can't find it, Eternium. Like, what's going on here?
Do you know what that strikes me as? That strikes me as a placeholder name that they just forgot to change when they were filming it. And they were like, we're running over budget here, guys. Let's just call it Unobtainium.
But I remember, the thing is, there were so many times where I really tried, because I thought I need to see what everyone else is sort of seeing here. And I think I've seen it all the way through about once, but I have seen like parts of it a good few times. It's so long, and not enough happens to warrant that runtime. And then the next one, or the Way of Water, that's even longer. And apparently there's loads of that doesn't warrant the runtime. So I mean, I'm not even bothering with it. Like I just cannot be bothered with it.
Do you know what I
Just,
compare it to as well as an interesting case study as to why you don't like it? And I'm not
yeah.
saying you're wrong for not liking it. It's very like Blade Runner.
Mm,
It is very, look at how nice our shots are.
yeah.
And people like you, like me, less so with Blade Runner, but definitely with Avatar, I'm like, okay, do you have anything else to show me other than just pretty shots? No, then
No.
I don't care.
No.
Because like, I think that's a valid reason why people look at Blade Runner and think, nah, not for me. Because at the time, you never saw those sweeping shots of cityscapes in the future. And now you just see them dime a dozen. You get like one tracking shot over the top of Wakanda. You get one tracking shot over the top of Mega City 1 in Judge Dredd and stuff like that. And it's just, we've seen this now.
Yeah.
Like, to go
Like,
back to this
I'm
film.
I'm not arguing that the CGI isn't good because it is, you know, and
But
the
that's
stuff
all it's got to offer
yeah,
as
the
well.
trailer stuff from Way of Water, again, you know,
Yeah.
it looks good, but nah, not
But
interested.
at the same time, does it look that much better than what like Pixar are putting out?
No, probably not.
No,
No,
not at all. So why are you spending that much money on it? Just
exactly.
be more efficient.
Exactly. Gemma, your number two.
My number two is King's Speech. I fell asleep. Right. Honestly, the tagline of it, I think, is something called "Find Your Voice." It should have been, "Come and watch Colin Firth be Colin Firth for 2 hours." That's it. I'm just looking now. This is what it won, because I remember it absolutely cleaned up that year, and it won Best Film, Outstanding British Film, Best Actor for Firth. How? He was just being Colin Firth. Best Actor. He didn't act a single moment in it. He was just Colin Firth.
Oh.
Best Supporting Actor, Best Supporting Actress, Best Original Screenplay. I fell asleep in that film. It was dull. So it is absolutely 100% for me the one of those films that everybody just raves about. It cleans up at the Oscars, and I looked at it and went, that was terrible. I was bored all the way through it. I really, really, really didn't like it. I fell asleep. I had to be poked because I was snoring in the cinema, and I was just like, that's how terrible it is. I mean, I have problems with my sleep. I have to go to the doctors to get really heavy medication for my sleep. That's why I
just
look
put
like
King's Speech on.
I just should put King's Speech on if it wasn't going to wake the rest of the house up. But the King's Speech can make me sleep in a cinema. I can't sleep in bed, but that made me sleep in a cinema. That is how poor that film is. Colin Firth just being Colin Firth.
That's the one that I disagree with. I really think he did a great job in that. Like the way he gets across that stutter, the way he like changed his speech pattern, like because that would have been really easy to just like like the way that the other character, like the way that Edward has got Guy Pearce's Edward just like rinses him. It'd be so easy for him to do that, but
that might be so.
Got such a soft spot for it, and I can't tell you why.
It was still a boring film. Whether he did a stutter well or not, it was still really boring. End of.
Number ones, Ollie, kick us off.
Okay, this is not a grenade by any stretch. This isn't a grenade because it's already been talked about, and I'm so glad other people have talked about it. I really hated it. Moonlight.
Okay.
I really, really hated it. It was so boring. It was so boring. Like the character that we are sympathizing with is gay. The end. Okay. Does he have any other aspects to his personality, or are we just leaning on he's gay, so we're gonna make that kind of everything we care about him? I don't know. It was just nothing happened. The only bit I thought, yeah, this could go somewhere, this could be interesting, was the relationship he had with Mahershala Ali. Because Mahershala Ali is one of those actors, he could have probably made it in my, honorable mentions for actors where I love. I love him in everything I've seen him in. I cannot wait to eventually see him as Blade, although that might be on the rocks from what I've heard, and that would be heartbreaking. Because he needs to be Blade. I'd love to see. And yeah, he's great in it. And then it cuts to Act 2 because it's really pretentious and needs to have acts in its storyline. And oh yeah, he dies off screen. Bye. Yeah, you know that character that we really, wanted you to grow an affinity to, and probably one of the main reasons you saw it. And there's a weird scene where he's just cradling a child in some water. Why? Why?
Yeah.
Like, why are we seeing that? That's a bit weird. And then, this guy that you kind of know, you're going to kiss him and he's going to touch you up on a beach. And then that's apparently, yeah, we really care that that's the only sexual encounter you've had in your life. Why? Nothing happens.
No,
It was like, and the reason I put this one top is because I genuinely, like, all the others I can kind of poke fun at a little bit. Like, even with Jungle Book and like Spirit or I could be like, nah, I don't like these ones. I don't get the hype. This is one that made me angry having watched it. I felt like and I wish I had the stomach of Gemma Hale to just walk away from a film, but like, I don't have that dog in me. I really don't. So I sat and watched this and just felt like so much time had been absolutely wasted. And this is now at the point, and I feel vindicated by you again, Gemma, because of this film, and it might be a weird jump to make, but because of this film, I refuse to watch Manchester by the Sea. Because everything I have heard about Manchester by the Sea, it gives me exactly the same vibe as this. It's just people quietly being annoyed and sad. And, but the story it's telling is such a human one. I don't give a toss. Do something. Engage me. Have something else about the character here other than, he's gay. Oh, I'm sorry. No, he's gay and he's growing up in a disadvantaged area. Okay. Am I not a good ally if I say that unequivocally I don't care about that story? Like, just give me something about him that makes him come across.
It's what we've said a few times, isn't it? Where, something can be a really powerful story, but you go to watch a film because you want to be entertained. So you need something to happen. And in Moonlight, nothing happens. And in, Manchester by the Sea, nothing really happens. Like you said in Gosford Park, nothing happens. You just kind of just get bored with it and just go, okay, great, brilliant premise, but make something happen.
This doesn't even have a premise, though. Like, what's the premise of this? He's gay in a disadvantaged area.
That's a premise. You can do something with it.
But that's it. They don't try and do anything with it. They don't see, like, he interacts with, like, one guy, and, like, and even then, just this, like, it could, if it was a short film about that, I could get behind it, and it winning an Oscar for, like, best short film or whatever. And like you've hinted at this before with like Brokeback Mountain, it doesn't feel that this was a politicized film. That because it tackled subjects to do with LGBTQ, that's why it won the Oscar. It's like, when in reality, was it that good a film? Really? No. And this is exactly, you've hinted at it again, Gemma, like, this is one of those films where people will probably throw it back at you. Oh, you just don't get it. What is there to get? What is there to understand about this? Like, there's nothing deep about this film at all.
Right.
Just
time. I'm getting angry texts from downstairs. Time. Right, my number one. I mentioned before that when I put that I didn't like this film, it was on Facebook actually at the time. My lecturer, one of my university lecturers, commented on it and said, "But it's a metaphor for the Big Bang. Gravity."
Oh, I thought you were going to go Space Odyssey.
No, Gravity.
That'd be top of George's list, by the way, and I think it's a fair shout. I love Hal, but Gravity.
Gravity is just rubbish. It's just an hour and a half of Sandra
Agreed.
Bullock floating around in space. Like, and George Clooney pops up every now and again. What's the point? What's the point? Yeah. And the fact that it was nominated for so much, and like everyone was like, "Oh my god, it's amazing!" No, rubbish. I have nothing else to say on the matter. No, it's rubbish. Gemma, what's your number one?
So this one, I don't even know if you lot have seen it. Actually, don't bother. This is actually the benchmark that I use and an analogy that I use to compare any of the crap film that everybody says is great. It's Tree of Life.
It's a tree.
It is just this self-indulgent metaphor for all sorts of stuff that flicks around between this sort of self-reflection of why his younger brother has died, and connecting his younger brother dying to the very origins of the universe, almost exploring whether or not it was always destined to be, looking at ideas between good and evil and all these kind of things. So many times when I saw the reviews of it, that when people panned it and people came back and went, yeah, I think it's because you just don't really understand, the kind of nature of it. I have a degree in philosophy and religious studies. If there's one thing I understand, it's exploring natures of good and evil, the origins of life, the meaning of life. Oh, believe me, I can 100% understand the concepts in that. I literally did a degree in those concepts, but it still doesn't mean that film was any good. There's this whole sequence of the Big Bang when he's trying to think about like his brother and his brother's life, and it goes to the start of the entire cosmos, and there's this whole kind of animated sequence, and you're sitting there, and it goes on for about 20 minutes, right, of just like explosions on the screen, and you're kind of sitting there going, what's going to happen now then? What's going to happen with this? What are we doing? Why are they doing this? Where's this going? And then it just stops, and then he'll be in a lift, and he'll come out of the lift and he'll look, and then it'll be him going up a mountain. Oh, awful, just horrendous. And it was one of those films that everyone went, oh yeah, it's just so amazing because it's so deep and powerful. But then when you look at it and go, but when you sit through it, you know what? I thought it was a really long film. I looked, it's actually only a 2-hour film. That was a 9-hour film. When I watched that film, that was a 9-hour film. I don't know why they've said it's 2 hours. That sequence with the Big Bang was 2 hours. Awful, really bad. It was, I put that down as the worst film I have ever seen. And I sat through it because I went to cinema to see it. I went to cinema with somebody, and we'd paid for our tickets. It was pre-Cineworld Unlimited card days, where I could just go, right, sorry, I'm just not going to watch it, or streaming services. We'd paid. We were in for a tenner each, and I think part of me just wanted to wait until it got good. I was invested, and I went, well, let's just see then, because it must be good. And then at the end of it, I went, oh no, it never got good. In fact, it turned out to be the worst film I've ever seen in my life ever. The Tree of Life. It's got some brilliant actors in it. It's got Sean Penn. It's got Brad Pitt. Should have been great. Crap.
I've not seen it, but there was a guy at uni, same year as me, who watched it because he really loved Terrence Malick, right? And I said, but I've seen the trailer, and then they're like dinosaurs in it. And he went, yeah, because it's about life. And I was like, it's sod off with that.
Yeah, they'll just be doing something, and then the metaphor comes like a dinosaur is going to kill another dinosaur, and then he doesn't. So it's a kind of like debate about, do we make choices, and are we moral? Are we inherently moral creatures, or did the dinosaur choose not? And you're just like, what? No, what? Why? See, I get it. Again, I'm an RE teacher. I did a degree in this, but it doesn't mean it's good. Doesn't mean it was good when it was on screen. It's crap.
No. Right. Holly's convinced she's got a bomb for a number one.
Ooh.
Well, that was before I found out that Terminator 2 Judgment Day is your third favourite film ever. So that was clearly the biggest. It's not, I don't think it's as bad as that. West Side Story.
Okay, fine. Yeah.
The original one.
Yeah, no, fine. I have a real soft spot for the musical, but literally because I performed in it at school and rediscovered my love of performing, and then went to uni, and like the rest is literally history.
So that's to blame. Oh,
yeah. So feel free to hate on it more.
Well,
but...
like I really love musicals, and you see like lists of the greatest film musicals ever made, and West Side Story is always up there, very often number one. If not, then it's always in the top 3, top 5. And I watched it and I just hated it. I did not like the songs. I feel Pretty could throw itself in the deepest part of the ocean. It's a terrible song. It made me want to claw my own ears
Not
off.
very Sondheim, is it? Yeah.
No, and then, well, it's Romeo and Juliet, but making Romeo and Juliet racial kills Romeo and Juliet. The point of it's in the prologue of the play that they're two households, both alike in dignity. They have to be equals at the top of society. And what they're doing, the reasons why they hate each other has been lost to time. And their feud is hurting the city that they're in because they're at the top and they have no regard for everyone below them. The only person who could try and stop them is the prince. They're so equal in this that as a audience member, you don't pick a side. Like the side is just the side of the young people who aren't invested in the feud. I watched West Side Story and I'm 100% shark. Like, the sharks are oppressed, the Jets are horrible racist bullies. You've killed Romeo and Juliet. Congratulations. Like, it's not two households both alike in dignity anymore. It's just a story about gangs, which is fine. A story about gangs can be great, but the important parts of that story, which are gut-wrenching, lose their power because you take a side. For me,
like that scene as well where Anita goes to try and talk to the Jets and they very nearly assault her in the worst possible sense, and it's like, yeah, okay, we're meant to find this as a tragic love story because we've not seen the Sharks do anything approaching that kind of heinous act, like, at all. Yeah, never thought about that.
Yeah, it's just and the music doesn't save it for me. I just find the idea of the Jets dancing around the city ridiculous. Yes, the dance, like the choreography is great, but I just find it ridiculous, and they lose the power of the original story. So it shouldn't have been based on that original story. It should have been a gang story.
They probably thought they were being really clever, modernizing Romeo and Juliet in that way, but missing that point of, because ultimately, I guess what they're doing is still hurting the city, but it is an important point that they are, because the Jets are also towards the bottom. They are themselves immigrants. They are.
Yes, but that's people. They're fighting for survival.
Yeah.
In Romeo and Juliet, the Capulets and Montagues are fighting because they're bored aristocrats.
Yeah.
With nothing else to do.
Yeah. And I mean, at least they didn't do the Romeo and Juliet thing of, Juliet being underage. That was nice. We can say that as a positive.
We find a positive.
Yeah, and like unlike Romeo and Juliet, where it's just Romeo's hot for her, you do genuinely kind of believe that they like each other.
I really like Romeo and Juliet, though. I like it more than, like, it's become a thing about Juliet's underage and this, that, and the other. Juliet is a fantastic character. When you really read the play and not just see adaptations of it where it's just a tragic love story and she's a wet blanket. She's not a wet blanket in the play at all. Romeo is 100% the wet blanket. Juliet is 100% in charge and clever and resourceful and sensible. She's a great character. And
the tragedy comes because Romeo just overreacts. It's like, oh, she's dead. When she's not.
He's the tragic hero. He's the one with the fatal flaw. And it's because he's too passionate. He's not practical at all. He just goes with his emotions, and that's his fatal flaw. And Juliet doesn't have that. But in West Side Story, again, she's reduced a bit.
Anita takes a lot of that agency, doesn't she?
Yeah, she does, and she's a fab character. But yeah, hate it. No, thank you. Haven't seen the remake. Don't want to.
Okie doke. Right, that's it. 10 critical darlings done. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you very much for listening. Stay safe, look after each other, and we will see you next time.